Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the South Node in major adverse aspect to the Moon in a natal horoscope. Well, as most of you know, the South Node is associated with what we generally may emphasize very strongly, or maybe even over-accentuate in the first half of our lives. And it's something that we look upon it at some point. It gets kind of monotonous, been there, done that, and then at that point in time we generally will go to our North Node placement. Well, not necessarily eradicating the South Node energy completely, but merely integrating at least somewhat with the North Node. Now we'll look at the Moon in a horoscope, and that is connected with our emotional needs, the mother, women in our lives, the unconscious, the subconscious, the emotional side of that person. And the Moon is also connected with the public. We look at it started on as far as these aspects goes. Obviously, if you have a Moon, or you have any aspects that are square, inconjunct, and opposition, it's adversarial. They're negative, obviously, and adverse. And it shows that the energies with one planet or point with the other are not working together. Now, people that have these aspects can have a conflict between their emotional needs and what their South Node is, whatever it is with that South Node in the first half of their lives, what that interest was, or they felt maybe that mission or their purpose, that thing, whatever it was that they were emphasizing, accentuating very strongly. It could indicate that the mother may not have been completely supportive of this person and whatever their strong interest, or whatever they thought that thing that they were, I guess we could look at it as the redundant point in the horoscope, that thing, that whatever it was they were emphasizing, indicated by the North Node placement, that they weren't always maybe in favor of or in support of. Women in this person's life that figured prominently, they might not have been 100% supportive. Now we'll look at this, and when someone has these aspects, I mean, obviously you look at the signs in signs house placement. I give you one example with me by sign. I have the Moon in Gemini square my South Node in Virgo, and you look at this, and both signs are intellectual, and obviously Mercury rules both of them, and there's a need for communication. But the thing is, when we look at this, is I think, well, the Gemini is more the need for the communication. I think the Virgo is a little bit more like the analytical, more emphasis on that. And see, Gemini Moon sometimes can lack persistence, and they might want to learn things superficially, and having variety in their life is important to their, I guess you could say, their as far as their emotional being goes, or that emotional side to them, emotional well-being perhaps. And we look at the South Node in Virgo, and this is someone that wants to analyze details and state, and a lot of times there's a lot of analysis with the South Node in Virgo. There's an emphasis on work, philosophy, and sticking around until every little minute detail gets done. And the fact that Gemini doesn't always have that kind of persistence, you could see where that would be a conflict on that. Gemini doesn't always want to stick around for all the gory details with certain things. So you look at, I guess you could say, these aspects, and the Moon in a person's chart, obviously that's connected with the emotional needs of the person, and the South Node can be that redundant spot in a person's chart. Perhaps whatever person was emphasizing with the South Node in the first half of their lives was maybe conflicting with the emotional needs to some degree, or the emotional needs may have been such where this became a focal point in the person's life, and they weren't really, despite the South Node being overdeveloped qualities, they weren't really, maybe they wanted to emphasize it even more so, and maybe weren't always able to do it to their liking necessarily. Perhaps home, the mother, there might have been family matters maybe that were such which dominated this person's, I guess you could say, their early life perhaps, and weren't able to necessarily focus on their, I guess you could say, their South Node maybe the way he or she really wanted to. There may have been some situations at home that might have caused some distraction or diversion, say, to this. And the thing about it is, just remember, just because if somebody has negative aspects, it's just important that the one good thing about negative aspects is that it learns us to grow, enables us to grow, I should say. If everybody just had predominantly, or I should say, if let's say in a horoscope, if somebody has all sextiles and trines, which would be virtually impossible to have, because the Sun and Mercury are not going to ever be 60 degrees apart. I think the maximum distance is a lot less, like somewhere near 30 degrees. I forget what it is exactly. But let's say, and I'm just throwing this out there, somebody has a chart that has predominantly sextiles and trines, everything would be, or a lot of things may come so easy to this person that the person would become complacent and too lax. Now, if you have somebody, if you have a few squares and oppositions here and there, it's not always that bad, because they actually enable you to grow as a person, because sometimes without adversity and without some conflict or without a setback once in a while, you don't necessarily feel like any need for improvement. You feel like, well, everything's going to just come to you naturally. And having the astrological knowledge of the negative aspects gives you an advantage, because it enables you to work on them and perhaps try to do things that might where you're not overemphasizing the negative in your chart, and you know what things to avoid. If somebody has, say, if you have like a square between your Venus and Neptune, that could indicate delusion and deception in love, then you know to be careful as far as matters connected with love goes, and make sure that the prospective romantic partner is who he or she claims to be, and there's no pretense, for example. And you could be more prudent in those things and make a better analysis of these people beforehand. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the South Node and major adverse aspect to the Moon in a natal horoscope. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about Mercury conjunct the South Node in a natal chart. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because a person astrologically is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.